Yeah, and I think so. Once the conversation does start, I believe the host can mute everyone who joins, just in case there are any like once that happens, just in case any feedback, we can do that once more people join. We can start in a few minutes.
Right. Right, so it's just gone past this, so I'm going to make a start now. So for those of you who just joined, thank you for joining us. Hi, my name's Adeswa. I'm one of the Women in Consulting junior execs under Abby, and I'm going to be our host for today. And also with me, I have Inez, another one of our junior execs for Women in Consulting. So if you can see her, just give her a wave, Inez. And yeah, today we're going to be unpacking HR and social impact consulting with the help of Mrs. Florence Agyei, a HR expert and a former World Bank HR consultant. And so we're going to have a presentation session and then a Q&A session. So if you do have any questions there, get ready for that. But Florence, over to you.
Thank you. Good evening all, and I'm speaking from sunny Ghana. Thanks for the introduction, and I'm delighted to be here. So in essence, I will start with an introduction of who I am. So who is Florence? And I'm going to talk to you about my leadership journey and what I have done and what has brought me thus far. So for me, Florence, what counts for me is authenticity is my watchword, and being myself and operating with integrity has been a critical factor in my career journey. Just to give you a flavor of my journey thus far, I was born and raised in Ghana, on a university campus to be precise. My dad was an administrator there at a medical school, and I had my nursery primary schooling on campus, left after my common entrance to an Anglican convent girls' school, St. Monica Secondary School. And after my sixth form, came back to campus, the same university that my dad worked at, and pursued my degree. Afterwards, I had my national service and left and relocated myself to UK. So the next slide talks about my family career to date. So briefly touch on my family life and how I have managed to tread the fine line and balancing career and raising kids, which is also important in your career. I started off in humble beginnings in London, and prior to having my kids, I even worked briefly at Greg's the Bakery in a restaurant there at Fleet Street, opposite the High Court. I had the occasion to interact with a number of judges, lawyers, media personalities because of Fleet Street there before you moved to Canary Wharf. Not long after I had my daughter and decided to pursue a professional career with the degree that I had. So I applied and joined the civil service then. And my first career in civil service was with a benefits agency. So from what I have said thus far, the learning point I want you to take out of this is that those of you who are about to start your career, when you join an organization, one of the things that I did was that I showed curiosity. I showed interest in everything. I had the thirst to learn. and I would volunteer for any jobs that were available. People didn't understand why, but I just needed to learn. I needed to get used to the work environment. I was continually challenging myself, and I joined a group in civil service at that time called the Go-Getters, where we will often meet, learn from each other, act as action learning set groups, share ideas and our frustrations sometimes. And we will often invite managers that we do at MA to come and interact with us and share their seniority experiences with us, because we also wanted to get to the position that they were in. Those days in civil service, I think it was woefully underrepresented, both in terms of gender and minority ethnic groups at the senior positions. So some of us, that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to get to the top. So we're willing to learn from anyone who would help us. I was fortunate that at that time, because of the lack of minorities at the top, they decided to set up the very first minority fast track scheme and targeted minorities across the nation. And it was called Realizing Potential. I was successful, and I joined the civil service fast track scheme at the time, where I benefited enormously from a number of opportunities, including shadowing permanent secretaries and other senior civil servants. I was traveling all over the country. I was going to lead to the head office to do stuff that they thought would benefit my career. On the panel at that time, there was one gentleman who liked me so much because he said he saw some potential in me when I did my presentation for the fast track scheme. And he volunteered to become my mentor. And to this date, Peter is still in my life. After 30 years, Peter is still part of our family friends. This preceded my son, Aaron, but Aaron knows Peter. Even when my daughter finished university and was about to go into civil service, Peter was there to also support Abigail through that. So the learning point here is that make sure that the people that you meet along the way, the people that you think you will have opportunity to learn from, please maximize those opportunities and take anything that you think you will get from them. If they want to be your mentor, your coach, please jump at that opportunity and maximize that, because Peter has been an enormous help in my life to this date. At the time, I was a young mother. I had a daughter. I was finding the program that they set for all the people on the fast track scheme quite challenging because of the traveling. I was leaving my daughter at home just to travel outside, and I wasn't enjoying that. So I felt I could step back. So I did step back, to be quite honest with you, because I don't think I was getting the balance that I needed. So for me, what I learned at that time is, irrespective of what you're doing in your career, timing is crucial. If you think that whatever you're doing is not working well for you, please be flexible with yourself. And sometimes just step back. Don't lose focus on your career goal, but you can step back and replan and reprioritize, because sometimes there are some priorities that come along the way. And at that particular time, I thought my daughter was a priority and I wasn't going to miss out on that. So I did step out of the fast track scheme just to take a break. The other thing that I will also say is that you need to remember that in your career life, it's a journey, not a destination. Don't be competitive. Don't say that all your friends are going so fast, so you need to get there. If you do that, you will not be happy. So when I was there, when I stepped off the fast track scheme, I was actually moved into human resources, because I was actually working in frontline benefits agency work. I was dealing with things like income support. I was assessing, I was an adjudicator then. I was adjudicating on disability, living allowance, incapacity benefits. So I was coming into contact with a lot of people who were kind of underprivileged and needed help. But at that time, when I stepped out of the fast track scheme, I was actually moved into HR. And I didn't think I was going to enjoy it, but I quickly got bonded to that role. I enjoyed it so much, and even secured promotion in no time due to my curiosity to learn. When I got there, there were some areas I knew that people didn't like doing, things like compensation and benefits or payroll. Because of the math aspect of it, people didn't like it. I would work my socks off trying to do all those jobs. So I made sure that I did everything voluntarily and learned as much as I could. So by the time I completed my first pill of HR work, I had actually experienced every aspect of it. I knew OD, organizational development. I knew recruitment and selection. I had done compensation and benefits. I was doing policy development, and I enjoyed all of them. So I learned so much. And I personally think that's what solidified my career in HR and made me quite good at what I do. Whilst there as well, I was moved into research and policy division. And as part of my research, I realized that communications was an issue at the time. So I implemented a communication strategy for the area that I worked, which was the Southeast region at the time. This received such, the document was so popular, they felt that I had done such a wonderful job that the document was actually promoted nationally. So that actually put me on the radar as well for other future career opportunities and career advancements. So I would say that when you are, as a learning point for those listening to me, when you're building the foundation of your career, just develop the quest to learn. You can reinforce your learning when you put whatever you do into practice. You have the theory, but you need to put it into practice. So until you do that and actually make mistakes, you will never learn. Don't be scared to make mistakes at that time. Actually, it's at the earlier stages of your career that you can actually afford to make mistakes. When you get to certain levels, mistake is going to have huge impact. So that's not when you want to make mistakes. So make all the mistakes earlier on in your life by trying to take on as much as you can. Don't stress yourself out, but take on as much as you can that you think is going to benefit you. Solidify your experiences, consolidate the learning that you have, and actually advance yourself, enable you to advance yourself. And ask as many questions as possible, those around you that you think will benefit you. Do ask all the right questions. The fourth slide, okay. So whilst in HR, I was, because I was doing quite well in the role and I had developed the quest to learn, I was supported by the organization to go and pursue my professional qualifications in human resource management. So I moved, I went to do my postgraduate diploma in human resource management at the University of East London. And when I obtained my postgraduate diploma, I came back to work, but at that time, not long after, I also got pregnant with my second child. And unfortunately had a very difficult pregnancy, so I was out of work for quite a number of months, unfortunately. After the baby arrived, I decided that because of the trauma that I had gone through, I wanted to actually take some career break and spend some quality time with my baby, because by then I had 2 children. This is a choice that only you can make in terms of when you decide to step up the career terrain and maybe reconsider your options. I don't think it's best for anybody to follow someone else's dream. Just follow your own dream. So I decided at the time to spend some time at home. But because I didn't want to get bored, what I decided to do was to also embark on a master's degree. So I actually got a loan, a career development loan, and applied to do my master's at Ruskin Business School whilst at home with my baby. I don't know whether that was a good idea at the time, but I did that. I also had time, whilst at home, had time to also reconsider my options and realize that because of the way I was being fast-tracked in civil service, and the fast-track in civil service meant I had to travel, because it was before the time of digitization. You couldn't work virtually. So sorry about that. Prior to the time of digitization, I couldn't work virtually, and I had to physically travel from place to place. So I decided that actually that wasn't an option for me. So I would look for local job instead. And what I did do at the time was to start applying for local jobs near me. Thankfully, I was successful and got an HR consultancy job. It was actually employee relations consultant at London, as a Barking and Dagenham, London Borough Barking and Dagenham at the time. So I moved from civil service to local government, which was very handy for me because it was just 30 minutes drive from where I lived at the time. And I could also raise my kids at the same time. But at that time, because I had started my master's, I didn't stop with my master's. So I had a baby who was about 4 months old. I was doing my master's and I had started a new job. And I realized that the challenging was getting too much. So sometimes know when to ask for help is also what I would advise you to do. So that's my learning tip for you. Know when to ask for help. So what I did do was that I spoke to my mother, who then decided to travel all the way from Ghana to come and help me out. So my mom moved in with me to help me out whilst I was raising my baby, because both my husband and I were both career people. And sometimes there's a saying in Africa that says that unless you share your problems, you will not get the medication for it. So I did share my problems with my mom. My mom did sacrifice her time, her job in Ghana, and moved to UK to come and help me. This gave me the opportunity to work and to concentrate on my work and to also concentrate on my master's degree, which was a one-year one because I was converting my postgraduate diploma to a master's. The other lesson that I learned whilst I was doing that was effective time management. I had to learn to manage my time critically. That's something that you need to be very meticulous with when you are planning your timelines and your deliverables, especially when you have a child to look after, you have a home to look after, you have your career, and then you have assignments and dissertations to do. Because if you don't plan very well, we all know of the saying that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So it is crucial that you manage your time effectively. I did have a fantastic time in Barking and Dagenham, but I saw a senior management position in Havering. And incidentally, the job was actually located just 10 minutes from my door. I lived in Havering at the time. So I decided to apply for it and thankfully was successful. So I moved from Barking and Dagenham to Havering as an HR manager then. And the learning lesson here for me is that you need to be bold and put your action and your strategies into practice. Just be adventurous, be creative. If you think the opportunity is right for you, just go for it. Don't be hesitant. If it's not right for you and you don't get it, at least you did try. And you will learn from every interview opportunity or assessment center opportunity that comes your way. So don't be hesitant in going for positions. Sometimes you think it's beyond you, but you never know. You will be the best candidate for it. So whilst at Havering, I personally think my time in Havering, I spent quite a number of years there, was actually my most of, I would call it the time that I probably consolidated everything that I had learned, actually became an expert in my role, got the opportunity to learn as much as possible, and also got the opportunity to be adventurous, creative, and innovative. At that time, I was at one point attached to social services. We had very critical issues at the time. We were struggling with recruiting occupational therapists. We were struggling with recruiting children's social workers. We had the whole country all fishing from the same pond, and I needed to do something. So I put strategies together, including strategies to even try and tap into talented candidates from outside the country. So we went to Canada and we went to Australia. We managed to bring some people in at a cost-efficient rate to come and work for us, because at that time, social workers, especially children and family social workers, were actually quoting their own pay rates, and they were getting expensive at the time. So we needed to do something. So that's what we did. And I did that because I did a strategic paper that was able to identify that if we do what I was proposing, that we could achieve some significant savings. So for me, what I will tell you is that wherever you go, wherever you work, in terms of your contribution, always look for an opportunity to add valuable input or make a valuable difference to the organization, because the people at the C-suite, they are only interested in the measurable outcomes that you bring to the table. Because every organization, it doesn't matter whether it's an organization that's addressing social impact or making a profit, they all want to know how they can achieve savings or even how they can increase their profit or maximize their profit. So always look at opportunities where you can actually measure and track what you're doing. Most people think HR, I'm one person that, even though I do HR, I think as an accountant. One of the principles that I have is that if I can't measure, I will not do. If it's not adding value to my bottom line and I cannot translate what I'm doing into quantifiable outcomes, then that means it's not worth my doing. So I always try and quantify something. So even if it's health and well-being, that issue that I'm addressing, I try and quantify that because it is the language of finances that the people at the C-suite are interested in. How does this make a difference to my bottom line? So always you need to think about that. It doesn't matter what you do, whether you're a consultant, whether you're working in a charitable organization, whether you're working for the World Bank, translating your bottom line into measurable outcomes is what everybody is interested in. So always think about, how do I measure what I'm doing and what difference am I going to make to my bottom line? That's very important. So whilst at Havering, I learned all that, and I was, so things like sickness absence, I would tell people if somebody goes off one day sick, the impact that is causing us, how much that person is costing us if we can afford that or can't afford that. So just be mindful of that. It doesn't matter what you do. So, and another thing that I will also say is that wherever you work, just try and understand the organization, the what's and all. Get to the nitty-gritty, know what they do, understand what the business is about. It's about understanding all this that you can actually add value. So even if you're a consultant who goes into an organization, unless you understand what the real issues are, you will not be able to come out with a report or any proposition that will make a difference to them. So it's only by understanding what the real issues are, what the gaps are, that you can actually come out with the recommendations that will make a difference to the organization, because it's a competitive world out there, especially for consultants, because it's your recommendations that the organizations that have employed you are keen on. And if your recommendations is not going to add value, then what is the point of you? They will not call you back, and they will probably, if you're working for any of the KPMGs or the PwCs or the Deloitte and EY, you will not be called back. The KPMGs are so ready to snap up the work that EY is doing that they will come and do a better job. So always remember, am I adding value to this organization? And am I addressing the real gaps that I was brought in to do? Speak to people, speak to the people there. Don't go in thinking that, oh, I know it all, and go and dictate to them because you're a consultant. Be as humble as possible and listen a lot. Less talking and just listen. And it's through listening that you get to the bottom of the issue so that you can address the issues for them as an expert consultant for them. So from Havering, I moved to Chelmsford. And Chelmsford, because I would say that by the time I moved from Havering to Chelmsford, I had consolidated most of my education, my theories, and understood what I was doing. I think my most successful career actually was in Chelmsford City Council. And I had a fantastic number of years in Chelmsford, because when I went in, they had a number of issues. I went in, rolled up my sleeves, and started delivering from day one. And I could quantify everything that I was doing. They wanted me to undertake a transformation agenda. I managed to do that, and by the time I finished, I had managed to save them 17% of their pay pot, which was significant indeed. They had issues with sickness absence. People were taking advantage, I would say, at that time. By the time I addressed the issues and put strategic measures in place, I had managed to save them £683,000. So when they see all these, they get excited. So you are given a lot more opportunities. After that, I started putting some of the work that I was doing out there for awards. And thankfully, we, as in Chelmsford, we won numerous awards there. And I think that is on the next slide. If Abigail will move my next slide for me. So you see that I won the CIPD awards, we won TJ awards. we had also invested in people. We were one of the first public sector organizations to have become Investor in People Gold. And actually we became an organization that other organizations were brought in because we were seen as a role model. I was also deemed as a nominated officer to support IIP when they wanted to upgrade their IIP to Generation 6. And I had to work with PA Consulting and other consultants to develop the IIP Generation 6. So all that by working with private sector bodies, I also went into partnership with other private sector organizations. I worked closely with KPMG at the time. I think we had Deloitte come in. I did ERP projects, and we had another organization also come in. So once I was working closely with them, I was also learning from them as well. They were getting public sector ethos experience from me. I was also gaining the consultancy experience that they have, and it's so sought after. So after Chelmsford, at a point in Chelmsford, I felt I had obviously done it all, and I needed to push myself. And my learning point here is that when you get to a certain stage in your career and you start feeling comfortable, if you don't do something about it, you might become stale. So just push the boundaries, try and get outside your comfort zone. So I decided to move out of Chelmsford and started looking for a job. And thankfully got a job at the College of Policing, which at that time I thought, because I had done a number of local authority jobs, moving into College of Policing was a different setting for me. So I went to the College of Policing, worked there for a couple of years, and also there did a number of projects. The advantage with the College of Policing is that it also exposed me to some international projects. I started working with some jobs in the Middle East. I started advising on projects there because we were sending some of our people there, including Asia. I was also working closely with people from the Cabinet Office. I was working closely with people at the Treasury, Home Office. I had the privilege of actually getting involved in the appointment of Cressida, who is now in charge of Met. So at that time, I had Theresa May as the Home Office lead, and had an opportunity to accompany my boss to a couple of meetings with her. So the exposure was phenomenal. So because of that, I had to do the highest degree of checks just for the Home Office. So after the College of Policing, at that time, I think my son was about to go to university. My daughter had already left home. And and following a very difficult time in my life, I lost my dad. I started thinking that I wanted to do something different. And I wanted to actually come and work in Ghana. But it was difficult transitioning from UK to Ghana, because when you come to Ghana, some of the initial feasibility studies I did indicated that when you come, they think that, oh, you can't transition that easily. There's a cultural differences, and I can't translate that cultural dimension into the Ghana one. So it was difficult getting in. And Ghana, most jobs here, if you're not lucky, it tends to be like whom you know. They need to see you and trust you. And I didn't know anybody. So because I had put my feelers about, I was there one evening when somebody I knew in Ghana, and actually that person had managed to secure a job from the UK in Ghana, said, oh, she had seen a World Bank job being advertised, and would I be interested? So she forwarded it to me. I looked at the job profile and I thought, oh, I don't think they will have me, because it's asking for somebody with HR and administration, but also somebody with finance. And because of the finance dimension, I almost didn't apply. But I decided to put myself forward for it. What do I have to lose? And I was successful. It was interesting because when I was invited to come for interview, I had to come from UK to come and interview in Ghana. They the structure was quite interesting because they put all the candidates in one room. So I walked into the room and saw about, was it 8? Because 2 joined us later. So we were 8 in the room, and then 2 also joined us, so 10. 1 came in and left. So there were about 11 people competing for that role. It was a long day, but thankfully I was successful. And then, but it took a long time for them to sort themselves out, to sort the contractual arrangement out. I had to give up the fact that I didn't want to be treated as an expat because that would have taken longer. So I came in as a World Bank consultant supporting the Data Protection Commission, but was not treated as an expatriate. So, and that was the sacrifices that I elected to make at the time. So sometimes when you have to move countries, think about all those issues. Do you want to go as an expat? Do you want to go into the country and apply for jobs within country and not to be treated as an expat? Because usually, because of the expense that is attached to an expat, sometimes it tends to disadvantage them. So depending on what you want, just put all that into the equation. When I moved to Ghana, one of the things that I factored in was the fact that, Abigail, move to the next screen, was the fact that even though I was paid in dollars, I knew that my money could go far. So because the lifestyle here compared to UK is cheaper. And also there are some benefits and allowances that you get in Ghana that you will not get in UK. So I factored all that into account. So sometimes when you are negotiating your salary or your rate or consultancy rate, if you have to move to another country, go and do your research and find out what other benefits you will get in addition to the pay. Don't just focus on the pay, because UK, sometimes they just tend to quote you your salary and that is it. But when you come to these foreign countries, even though they are just quoting your salary, there are additional benefits that you will never know. I mean, no one will give you fuel allowance in UK, but here they will give you your salary, but will give you things like fuel allowance, they'll give you things like furnishing allowance, they'll give you things like accommodation allowance, things like, I mean, in my current job, for instance, they even provide you with a car, a driver, which you will not get in UK. So always don't just look at the package that they've put on the table. And also the fact that you're not going to get expatriate, don't let that deter you from maybe putting yourself out if you want an international experience. Just factor all that into consideration. So I've been in Ghana for over 2 years now. My World Bank contract, even though it was a fixed term contract for 18 months to 2 years, I finished around January. And then when I finished, there wasn't anything for me to do. So I was actually considering coming back to the UK then. So I put myself out there and had a couple of headhunters sending me jobs from UK. But thankfully, and I don't think anybody precedes COVID with thankfully, because of COVID, I couldn't travel outside the country. So I couldn't take the job offers in UK and I was stuck in Ghana. And by virtue of the fact that I was stuck in Ghana, I saw the adverts for Greatco, which is quite a prestigious company in Ghana and very competitive. And I decided to put myself for it and said, whilst I'm waiting for COVID to go away, I will just put myself for it. If I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. Little did I know that I was going to be successful. So I got to move to Greatco. And in Greatco, we provide, we are the only transmission company in the whole of Ghana, and we provide electricity all over the country. So we have transmission poles, so it's a nationwide job. And not only do we provide jobs for those in Ghana only, but we also provide transmission to other West African countries. So it's quite a lucrative organization, very successful organization. And it's been a privilege to be with them. So I've been there for just over 6 months. And even today, I was a lead speaker at a Women in Energy conference. And in Ghana particularly, and I think even in the world, there's only minimal number of women in the energy sector. And we are trying to promote more women into the energy sector. And it was a privilege to be there today because one of my master's degrees dissertation, I worked on women and the glass ceiling. Is it a perception or a reality? And sometimes based on the research that I did and sometimes what happens on the ground, I personally think I can add a lot of value to what they are doing here. And I was so excited to have been part of the conference today and some of the things that they are trying to do to make a difference for women here. There are a number of educated women here, but the way they would treat a male counterpart, even though they both have the same degree, and a female. Somebody gave an example today. They both graduated with computer science degree. They both went into the same field. But if you're a woman, they choose to call you a programmer. But if you're a man, they will call you a system analyst. Systems analysts tend to earn more. But why would they do that when even the women may have maybe better degrees, like a 2-1, and the man has 2-2? But and it just doesn't sit well with me. So those are some of the things that we really want to change. In my management team, for instance, we have a team of about 12 directors, and I'm the second female to have joined the directorship. The only one who was a director was the head of legal and the company secretary. So it's like a novelty for another woman to have joined. And they thought that they were going to get another woman who was going to be quiet and not talk. And I have kind of been there, and I'm taking charge, and I'm quite vociferous with my views. And I think it's a novelty in Ghana. They are not used to that. So they are still getting used to me. But at least it's making a difference. So now they are actually hearing my voice. I'm being visible, and I'm making a difference. So that's why you've seen some of these in these photos. I tend to go around. I don't just stay in my office. I like being visible, traveling across all our sites, working with staff and hearing their difference. And we were proud to have won Brand of the Year and is a Chief Executive of the Year, another award that we won in the Ghana Energy Awards recently. So in terms of my career, I was just rushing through because I'm conscious that we've got an hour. I want to give you opportunity to interact with me. So in terms of my career today, that's what I've done. I've touched on importance of networking. I've touched on, Abigail, can you go through so that I talk about my Florence 5Fs and all that? So for me, some of my career top tips that I've summarized here for you. I just want you to remember that you should not just focus on your work, but aim to offer your expertise outside of work as well. Even when I was working and I had my children and I was busy with a career, I still worked as a school governor for a number of years, and I provided my service voluntarily. I did a number of charitable work as well, because it's important that whatever expertise that you have, you can hone your skills in elsewhere, because sometimes some of the issues that you encounter in your work, you might not see other issues if you don't expand your horizon elsewhere. So always try and find something that you can do, even if you sit on an advisory board or work voluntary with even a school or even mentor children. That is actually quite crucial, and it will put you in good stead in your career. One of the things that in HR, it is so respected that you need to know your staff and you need to strat your staff. If you know your staff, you need to share, challenge the status quo. Don't just sit down. So one of the things that I did at the college was about gender pay imbalance. I did a research, realized that for some reason, the people who come from the forces to work for us, because we had a number of lecturers as well come to the forces to work for us, because majority of them are police men, they tend to be male who come and work for us. And the civilians, they come in with big pots of money, but they were paid, they were doing similar jobs with their female counterparts who were earning far less. And there were instances that the females were even managing some of them, but earning less than them. And I needed to address those imbalances because I just couldn't put up with that. So know your staff so that whenever you put up a paper, you can defend your position, because sometimes you do get a comeback from people. You need to also develop a thick skin, I will say, that and be resilient in whatever you do. You have to build, I would say, emotional intelligence and also be emotionally resilient. HR is a difficult field. Everything that goes right, management will take credit. As soon as it goes wrong, they blame HR. Oh, you didn't tell us that, oh, you didn't say that. But when it goes right, the chief executive will come smiling and he'll be the one giving the awards because you've put measures in place to address something for them. So you need to be very resilient and not take things personally. Ensure you maintain your professional membership because it does help. I've talked about networking. Being a member of a professional body, I've been a member of the CIPD, a fellow charter status at the moment. And I still, even though in Ghana, I still pay my membership in UK, and I still participate in all the events that they organize, because it is there that I can actually get in contact and connect with my peers. So it's important that you do that. And also build credibility and build excellent reputation. You only have one reputation. You damage that reputation, that is it. Sometimes it's difficult. So make sure that you maintain your credibility and maintain the excellent reputation that you have. For me, integrity is important to me. And I will not let any, sometimes people say that, oh, madam, you're too principled. But I would rather be principled and have my integrity intact than sell my soul. So there are some things that I don't compromise about. Abigail, next slide. So I'm going to leave you with Florence's 5 steps. So whilst nurturing your career, always make sure that you have an end goal. Everybody knows what their potential is, what they want to do. You know exactly the point that you can get to. Not everybody wants to become a director. Not everybody wants to be part of a C-suite. Some people want to get to a level and that is enough for them. Just know what your end goal is and just focus put your eye on that end goal. Be futuristic. Be futuristic means that the environment that we live in, it changes so rapidly, especially in this era of digitization. So keep up with the skills that is going on around you. Scan the horizon, know what is going on there and keep up with it. Especially if you work in HR and particularly in UK, if you are in HR, the employment law arena changes so rapidly. So you need to keep up. Almost every 1st of April, you need to be sure what has changed, what is there, what are the slight tweaks that they've made to the legislation. So always keep up, keep yourself updated, continuously develop your skills. Have faith in yourself. I think that is very, very important because if you don't have faith in yourself, no one will have that faith in you. So just have that faith in yourself, be confident in yourself and in your own abilities. And keep up learning. Don't ever stop learning. One of the things that sometimes people tend to do or say is that, oh, I don't want to fail. So because they don't want to fail, they don't even try. For me, I see failure as part of your success. So be fearless. Just embark on that project that you've never done and learn from it because if you don't try, you will not succeed. And sometimes when you try and you fail, pick yourself up and just do it again. It is by doing so that you become that expert. It's by doing so that you become that consultant that you want to be. Because you are called a consultant for a reason. You are a consultant because you know your job well enough that people can actually gain something from you. So if you fail, don't count it as that, oh, I have failed, so I'm not trying again. It's just part of your success story. Just remember that. And I will encourage everybody here that no matter who you are, what you do, just happily fulfill your potential. Do it the way you want to do it. Don't do it the way somebody else has done it. You are unique, you are you, and you know your ability. Don't push yourself too much. Sometimes some people rush too much, and what they tend to do is that they burn out so quickly. The career life is so long. Even in UK, I think the pension age they keep pushing it back. I think mine is, I can retire in UK till I'm about 66 or 67. So by the time it gets to you guys' age, you probably won't be able to retire till you're about 80 and on your Zimmer frame. So please focus on the end goal. Enjoy your career journey and fulfill your potential, but take your time and enjoy the process. Know what you want. As you keep doing other projects and you nurture your career, you will know the areas that you love. And there is a saying that if you find what you love most in doing, you will never work a day in your life. So just make sure that you identify that. So moving on to the next slide. I have also offered a number of resources here for you, other areas that you can obviously look for job opportunities from. We've got DIVEX, civil service, they tend to have a fast track scheme. Move Me Back is another one that I also found recently. So you take time and go through that. If anybody wants to drop me a line and probably ask me a question here and there and I can help and I'm not busy, I'll happily do so. So the World Bank, opportunities for the World Bank they actually also look for interns actually. So look for those opportunities. They've got UNESCO, USAID in Ghana, DFID, I think they've now changed it in UK, so look out for it. United Nations, all that, they do offer opportunities, especially if you're looking for international opportunities. So my final words is that never ever give up. And this picture was given to me by one of the permanent secretaries that I had the occasion to shadow when I was on the civil service fast track scheme. And he was moving on, and he wrote to me when I said that, oh, I couldn't balance the work with my children. So he sent me this picture with a beautiful letter telling me that, Florence, don't ever give up. You've got the potential, keep working at it. So that is it. And I will leave you with my final saying that if you fall behind, run faster, never give up, never surrender, and rise up against the odds. So when you do fall down, pick up yourself, wrap yourself down, and keep continuing. Thank you so much. Hopefully you found something useful in all that I have said. Because we had an hour, I know I've had to speak faster to rush you through, but if you've got any questions, this is the time that we can go through the questions.
Okay.
So thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Florence. There are some really great takeaways there. It looks like we have a question. So, Flojo, do you have a question? Would you like to?
Yes, I have a question. Thank you so much, Florence and Labi. Thank you. Yeah, I did enjoy what you just said, and I agree with almost everything that you said. Most importantly, with the working for different companies and organization, when you have to push yourself and then bring measurable, improvements, something that they can say you came here and you did this and you're able to do that. But at the same time, how were you able to find those kind of jobs? Because especially in COVID-19, many people are unemployed, and there are several professional people out there with many years of experiences. And I'm doing master's at Warwick at the moment, so I'm expecting to go back into industry in 2021. So how do we compete with the number of people out there with so many different experiences and many years in industry with work? There've been several places, and also most importantly, where do we find those jobs? Like if you could send the slides for the international, international job search, those things will be very good for us.
Yeah, I'm sure my son who is listening in would be happy to share all that with you. Yes, obviously, we are living in unprecedented times. COVID is very unique. Nobody has experienced that. So I can understand what you're saying. But for me, I don't think you should ever give up. What COVID has taught us is that there are new ways of doing things. And I think most organizations are actually readjusting and relearning, and they are going to have to redefine new ways of doing things. So the job opportunities might not be there now, but I think it will come, because it doesn't mean that because of COVID, the things that we're doing or we have been doing have stopped. We just have to readjust and adapt to do it differently. So I'm sure things will come. So don't ever give up, keep looking. And I always say this to people. Sometimes I mentor other people and they come to me and they say that, oh, we've been looking and I've applied for this number of jobs. And I keep telling them that it only takes one job. So don't give up. Do you understand? So as soon as you give up, that job that probably was lined up for you is the job that you're giving up on. And every job interview that you go to, I will tell them, you are bettering yourself. So one of the things I tell people is that when you come out of an interview room, many a time we've all gone to an interview, we've come out and we say, oh, I wish I had said that. I wish I had said that. So one of the strategies I adopted was, as soon as I walk out of the interview room, I just scribble all the questions that they asked me again. And either when I'm on the train going home, I will try and answer it again. I may not have said it in the room, but at least I've now documented it. So I started keeping a diary of all my interview questions. And sometimes you go to another interview and you know that before I go to another interview, I've gone through and I've vetted myself. So as soon as they ask the same question, I know exactly how I'm going to answer it and improve. So start doing that and don't ever give up is what I will say.
Yeah, thank you. We've got another 2 participants who've raised their hand. Did you want to come off mute and say your question?
Hello, it's Ekaterina speaking. Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Super. Thank you so much. Florence, hello. My name is Ekaterina. I'm doing MBA here at work. Thank you so much for being so open and so inspirational about your journey. My question is about your advice of doing things extra, like serving on board or advisory board. As you can imagine, like doing MBA, I already have some years of experience, and I'm actually a professional, and I'm quite curious about this, being as a non-executive or sitting on kind of this charitable organizations. Would you have any advice how I can, look for these opportunities in England? And yeah, how can I make it? If you have any tip, I will be very grateful. Thank you.
Actually, what are you majoring in for your MBA?
Sorry, could you please repeat?
What are you majoring in a particular area? Like somebody will do MBA project management, MBA finance, MBA human resource management.
Yeah, MBA is just, general MBA. So
in general, there are so many opportunities, especially in the charitable areas. They are looking for people with your expertise to come and help them, because sometimes they can't even afford to put people on the payroll. So if they look for people to be on an advisory board capacity, they look for people to come and help them with maybe a project, and you can offer that. And actually, if you go to, I don't know, that's why I asked, CIPD also recruit professional HR people to actually provide a service. So I think they have a website that they ask people who are willing to provide maybe like employee relations advice to a company that is lacking or a company that cannot afford. So there are all those opportunities there. You have to look. I know CIPD does that. I know some of the professional bodies will also have that. And I know there is, I can't remember the name, there's a lady in Ipswich. She was also recruiting a number of people to provide professional services to other people on voluntary basis, and also register with other organizations. There are some organizations that register people for working as board members. There are some also that actually charges a fee, but I would go for those for the charitable, in the charitable arena, where you don't have to pay a fee to become a board member, but you are there to offer your services voluntarily, just to enhance your own skills. So it is there. You have to look.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Esther, did you have your hand up as well? Did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, sure. So, Florence, you mentioned earlier about initially when you're getting into HR, you didn't thought you like it. I'm on the MBA program as well, and my background is in HR and recruiting as well. And I just wanted to find out if you faced any prejudice in getting into HR and how you overcame that, especially when maybe some people don't see the importance of the role. Was there any chance like that, and how did you overcome that situation?
I didn't quite catch what you said there. You said, could you repeat the question again?
Yeah. Did you face any prejudice in terms of, the HR role, getting into HR? Did you, whether in Ghana or in the UK, like have people who may not see, the importance of HR or your value to the firm? Did you face anything like that? And how did you overcome such a situation of, adding value to the firm?
Right. Prejudice, yes, I did.
Yeah.
Particularly, obviously being Black and female, sometimes you're not given the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. And you have to work twice as much. You have to work as hard as possible. That's why for me, when I go into an organization, making an impact as quickly as possible is important to me, because I know that they have employed me, I need to let them know that actually I have something valuable to offer. So you will have to work as much as possible. There's been instances, trust me, that I've gone to meetings, and you are in a meeting full of men, and you say something which is very valuable, and it's like nobody heard it, but it comes from a man. Oh, wow, it's like the best thing from your since fried bread. Do you understand? It happens all the time. There was an experience that I had to go and provide a consultancy advice to, I think it was a residential home. They were doing a major transformation, and we had to go and do this consultancy service for them. And I had to go with my deputy, who was white male, Oxford graduate, speaks very well, posh. So he had the occasion to engage with them before. And when we went, they would not even look at me. We were sitting around the table, we were having the interaction. Everybody ignored me. So I just let them be. But I knew I was the expert on TUPE, which is called Transfer of Undertakings, Protection of Employment Rights. I mean, you guys will see from my CV that I've also done Masters in Employment Law. So I was the expert on that. And that was the reason why I went there. So they just ignored me totally. And it was during the engagement and they got stuck. And I still sat down quietly until my deputy then said, actually, the person who is an expert is Florence. And they all turned to look at me. And it was like, all of a sudden, I'm visible. So it happens, but don't let that deter you. It is part of life. So I have been to, I remember, I'm sorry that I'm giving you all my examples. I hope nobody finds this offensive. I have another example, and this will be my final example, that we were doing a procurement, a big procurement on occupational health. And I'm the budget holder because I was the head of HR in the organization. And at that time, I was the only Black female, but I happened to be the boss. And I had 2 deputies working to me. But I had this young lady who was quite slim and tall and was looking for, she was very bright. She was looking for opportunity for internship. So I gave her the opportunity, 3 months internship in my organization. So when those people came, I got her to go and meet them at the reception. So she brought them to the conference room. But I think the people coming in who wanted this big procurement project from us did not see the difference between her and me and assumed that because she came to fetch them from reception, she's a secretary. So when they were doing the presentation, even though they were doing the presentation to me because I was the budget holder, they ignored me. They would pass the handouts to my 2 colleagues and leave me out. I sat down there, watched them. And then after about 30 to 45 minutes, I just couldn't take it anymore. They would not even look me in the eye. So I got up and said, it looks like I'm not needed at this meeting, so I'm going to go to my office. And then it clicked to them. So when I walked out, my 2 deputies also followed me. And then they tried to come to my office to come and apologize. And I told my PA, I don't need anybody in my office because they've been so blatantly rude that I didn't need them. So these things, they do happen, but you just have to rise above them. So if you remember, I did say that you need to be emotionally resilient, and you also have to have the emotional intelligence to deal with things like that, because they will happen. It doesn't matter even whether you're in Ghana. If you're in Ghana, it happens between male and female. If you're abroad, it will happen because either your color or your background or how you speak or even your education, where you had your education. So it will happen, but you have to have the confidence to rise above that. That is what is most important. If you allow these things to beat you down, you will lose your confidence. But having that credibility and your reputation intact is the most important. So just keep your eye on the end goal is what I say. Thank you, Esther.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that. Just in the interest of time, I just want to say a massive thank you to Florence for, coming and sharing with us today for this event. And I hope you guys got some great takeaways from it. Do reach out if you want, the slides, or, for Florence on LinkedIn. I'm sure she'll be happy to connect with you guys. And so, on that note, thank you, everyone, and bye.
Thank you too. Bye-bye, everyone.